You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Armchair Cricket Podcast, a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. Continuing with our World Cup digest, covering latest matches and news, today we'll be talking about match number 24 and 25, played between Afghanistan and England and South Africa and New Zealand, respectively. The match between Afghanistan and England was played at Old Trafford, Manchester, and South Africa and New Zealand was played at Edgbaston, Birmingham. Let me welcome my co-host Ajit so that we can talk about this. Hello, Ajit.
Hi, Giri.
How's it going?
It goes good. How are you?
Good as well. Yes, we have so many matches, right?
Yes.
And potentially a very important match that happened yesterday between South Africa and New Zealand. Do you want to talk about the other one first?
Sure. So before we go to that one, so let's look at the other match that happened. So the match between Afghanistan and England. So in this case, this was a little bit of a one-sided match. When you look at the scores, England won this match comfortably by 150 runs. So England had won the toss and elected to bat first. Ever since they did that, sort of the writing was on the wall against this Afghan team, who's a bit, they're not the best team out there in this World Cup and they're struggling a little, right? So James Vince made 26, another pretty 20. And then Johnny Bairstow and James Vince actually started out very slowly. And when James Vince was dismissed, the score was 44 in the 10th over. But then Johnny Bairstow picked up the scoring rate along with Joe Root, who was his usual, very metronomical self. And Johnny Bairstow made 90 before he was cotton bowled by Gulbuddin Naib. Joe Root made 88, again of just 82 balls. And then again he fell to Gulbuddin Naib. But Eoin Morgan played probably what is to date his best ODI innings. And he hit 148 of 71 balls with 17 sixes. This is the maximum number of sixes for any batsman in an ODI innings. He was then supported by Moeen Ali, who made 31. But Buttler and Ben Stokes did not have much to contribute, but they ended up with a total of 397 for 6, England. When you look at the bowling stats, Dawlat Ahmadzai took 3 wickets but considered 85 runs. Mujibur Rahman took no wickets but considered just 44 runs of his 10 overs. They did a good job in the middle overs. Nabi took 0 for 70 of 9 overs. And Gulbuddin Naib had a very decent outing given the score. He took 3 for 68 of 10 overs. The worst bowling analysis in this match went to Rashid Khan, who took 9 overs for 110. It was a nightmare of a day for the Afghans' main strike bowler. When it came to Afghanistan's innings, well, it was going to be a tough chase from the outset, and it did not help when they lost Noor Ali Zadran, bowled Archer for a duck. Gulbuddin Naib promoted himself to open and played a very flashy 37 of just 28 balls, but before he was caught by wood or off wood by Buttler. Rahmat Shah made a steady 46 but took way too many balls. Hashmatullah Shahidi made 76 of 100 again, 100 balls. Asghar Khan who finally found some form, making 44 of 48. And then Najibullah Zadran made 15, but the rest of the batting order could not contribute much. And they subsided to 247 for 8. And England won by 150 runs. When you look at the bowling from England, Vokes took 41 for no wicket in 9 overs. Jofra Archer, 3 wickets for 52 and 10. Moeen Ali, 35 runs off his 7 overs, no wickets. Mark Wood was good. He took 2 for 40 of 10 overs. Adil Rashid also took 3 wickets for 66 of 10 overs, and Ben Stokes completed the remaining overs. So Eoin Morgan was the man of the match. There are no doubts in that, I guess. He played a really explosive innings, Giri.
Yeah, I think it was one of the most cleanest hitting. I saw the highlights. This reminded me of the innings he played with Jos Buttler back in the Caribbean earlier this year. I think both of them got hundreds back then. Buttler was the more aggressor there, but this time I think Morgan just showed the whole world what a capable hitter he is.
Right.
And I think his game has transformed so much over the last couple of years. He strikes so beautifully. So he was timing everything. He was timing every single ball. I think if you try to follow the highlights of this match, for me at least, I got a bit tired of looking at all those sixes because there's so many of them, right? So it was it's a downpour of sixes, and unfortunately, I think Rashid Khan had a very bad game.
Right.
I don't know what the morale of the team right now is. Afghanistan's team, they looked a bit down on the field when they were bowling,
Mhm.
and Rashid Khan seemed to be out of sorts, or probably England had worked him out very nicely.
Right.
Johnny Bairstow, you remember, played with Rashid Khan for Sunrisers in the IPL. So I think he must have had some inside secrets there that he had shared with the England cricket team. So they
Right.
probably knew how to handle him. And the other thing I noticed was if you compare the spinners, Mujibur Rahman, Mohammad Nabi, and Rashid Khan, you look at Rashid Khan, he went for plenty,
Mhm.
right? Nabi went for 70 runs in his 9 overs, but Mujibur Rahman, he went for just 44 runs. So he was a pick of the bowlers for them in terms of spinning options. What I understood here is Rashid Khan is difficult to read from the hand. So he has a very quick arm action, so you can't read what he's going to bowl.
Mhm.
But before he bowls the delivery, you can see in his stride already how he's holding the ball, whether it's going to be a googly or whether it's going to be a traditional leg spinner. You can spot that. But with
Right.
Mujibur Rahman, I think Sangakkara made an analysis during the match,
Mhm.
and what he noticed was he has the same kind of an action and he holds the ball in a very similar fashion, no matter what kind of delivery he bowls, whether it's a straight slide oner or if it's a carom ball or if it's an off spinner. So it's actually difficult to spot Mujibur Rahman when he's on song. And I think this
Right.
was one of the occasions. And Bairstow actually played him with a lot of respect earlier in the
Mhm.
innings. So that's why you see a lot of dot balls in his bowling figures. So all in all, I think Afghanistan probably had lost the match by the time the 25th or the 26th over was done. I think England were looking ominous already. The other points I noticed was England's acceleration in the death overs is unbelievably good. So what they
Right.
did is, if you compare the batting figures every 10 overs, there was a graphic that was displayed during the match or at the end of the
Mhm.
match. So the
Right.
first 10 overs, England scored 46 runs for the loss of 1 wicket. The next 10 overs, so between 11 and 20, they scored 60 runs. So they were already getting up to 6 runs an over.
Mhm.
21 to 30 was 58 runs for the loss of 1 wicket. So just about 6 runs an over. And then from over number 31 to 40, that's when Morgan was getting along really nicely. They
Right.
made 91 runs in those 10 overs. And in the final power play between over number 41 and 50, um, England made a mammoth 143 runs. So that's a run rate
Wow.
of more than 14, right? So this is why you see such a huge figure, 397 runs, almost 400 runs. And at the end, I saw Moeen Ali. I think I happened to catch this live. Moeen Ali was just throwing his bat around. Everything was in his slot. He
Right.
was hammering it all over the park. He even hit 4 sixes. And if you count the number of sixes in the whole match, together, I think both teams scored 31 sixes, out of which England scored 25 and Afghanistan had 6 sixers among their batters. So it was a batting masterclass from England, and Afghanistan, unfortunately, are looking down the barrel right now. They
Right.
probably will, yeah. Their World Cup seems to be coming to an abrupt end with a string of all these losses and also very bad performances, actually. I was expecting a lot more, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They have their next match against India, of course. I think that's on Saturday.
Right.
So will they be able to, stand up and put up a fight against India? Remains to be seen. But they will be on for another um, defeat, I would say, because they're not looking good on the field at the moment, unfortunately. And also off the field, they have had some issues, right? I think there was
Agreed.
some altercation with some restaurant staff in Manchester, but the management has played it down a little bit. And
Indeed.
in fact, Coach Phil Simmons, I think he has said that he's going to expose the chief selector,
Right.
Dawlat Ahmadzai, after the World Cup, because I think he has a contract. So
Mm.
it all doesn't sound well there. It's a lot of negativity around that, and probably it has unsettled the players a little bit. So we need to see what's going to happen in the next few days. I hope Afghanistan, at least fight a bit and show why they were promoted in the Test cricket, at least why they became the top Test side. Right?
Look, it's their first tour of England, and most celebrated teams do struggle when they are touring England for the first time. And they're playing a World Cup and in England when most teams are fighting on all cylinders and are at their best. So it's to be expected that they might struggle a little. But yeah, I mean, knowing the Afghani team, I think they'll look to bounce back in a strong way in the remaining matches and at least do a creditable show. If whether they win a match or not remains to be seen. Probably their best chance against Sri Lanka has come and gone, but you still not write them off. Maybe the match against Pakistan might be close. Match against India might also be close because they know these two opponents well, and I think they might have a surprise or two up their sleeve. So that's
Yeah.
one thing. The other thing, you're absolutely right. Regarding that incident that happened on the eve of the match, where there was some small altercation with some patrons at a restaurant. It looks like the patrons may have suggested that at 11 p.m. they were ordering a lot of food, and maybe given that there was a match next day, such a lot of food was probably not a good idea. And it has come out that Muhammad Nabi was the main, let's say, the protagonist in this altercation, and he seems to have had a few words with certain patrons, and then I think it was hushed up. Not a lot came out afterwards, but well, I mean, yeah, if there were really some interesting selections and the captain being sacked before the tournament and so on, I think there might be some things that come out once Phil Simmons is out of his contractual obligations with the Afghan board. That remains to be seen, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So
Now,
shall we look at the next match? I think this was a tighter contest between South Africa and New Zealand, played at Birmingham, Edgbaston.
indeed.
So New Zealand won the toss on what looked like a slowish pitch, I think, and also I think softer surface. That's why Kane Williamson decided to bowl first.
Right.
South Africa. I'll just run through the score and then we can talk about the analytical points here. So South Africa came out to bat. They lost Quinton de Kock early to Trent Bolt. He was clean bowled while exposing the stumps. I think it went through the gate between his bat and pad. And then Amla and Faf du Plessis tried to put on a partnership. I think they had a 50-run partnership, after which Lockie Ferguson, the fast bowler, clean bowled Faf du Plessis of a fantastic Yorker. And then Amla and Aiden Markram tried to stitch together another partnership. I think they put on about close to 50, just over 50 runs partnership when Hashim Amla was dismissed by Santner. He was clean bowled off Santner. And then soon afterwards, Markram followed suit. He was out when the score was 136 runs. He was the fourth wicket down. Markram made 38 runs. I forgot to mention that Amla actually had made a 50, so it was, welcome back to form for him. I think it was a good score for him. It was an important 50 for the team. And then, of course, Rassie van der Dussen, along with David Miller, had a bigger partnership. I think this was the most significant partnership in the whole match. They steadied the middle order and then they made sure they didn't lose any wickets. However, the scoring rate dropped drastically, so they were scoring just over 4 runs an over or something like that. And this actually came to hurt them later in the match, because when they tried to accelerate, they couldn't find the middle of the bat, and they seemed to be out of touch. At least David Miller did, until he started hitting a few. But David Miller was dismissed in the 45th over when the score was 208 runs. He was dismissed for 36 runs. Rassie van der Dussen went on to make a 50. He was unbeaten in the end for 67 runs of 64 deliveries, which had 3 sixes and 2 fours. The other guy who joined Rassie van der Dussen was Bahlugwayo, and he was also dismissed for a duck by Lockie Ferguson. In the end, South Africa made 241 runs for the loss of six wickets in 49 overs. They lost 1 over because the match started a little later due to wet outfield. So the match was 49 overs aside. Bowling figures, New Zealand seamers had a very good day. Henry went for 34 runs in his 10 overs, but did not pick up a wicket. It was unfortunate, I would say. He bowled really well. Trent Bolt, of course, picked up the crucial wicket of Quinton de Kock and went for 63 runs in his 10 overs, slightly expensive. Lockie Ferguson also went for a few runs. He went for 59 runs, but he picked up 3 wickets in his 10 overs. Mitchell Santner bowled his left arm spin, picked up a wicket for 45 runs in 9 overs. But I think the pick of the bowlers, I think one of the more economical spells in this innings was Colin de Grandhomme with his medium pace. Went for 33 runs and picked up a wicket. of Aidan Markram in his 10 overs. So in response, New Zealand began, I think New Zealand started okay in the first 2 overs, but Colin Munro was cotton bowled by Rabada. I think Rabada bowled really well in the initial spell at least. Munro was out for 9 runs when the score was 12 in the third over. And then Martin Guptill and Kane Williamson put on a partnership of 60 runs when Martin Guptill, while trying to hit a ball of Pakluwayo, fell over the stumps. So he was out, hit wicket. That's a very strange dismissal. I think this is the first one of this tournament this year. Hit wicket for 35 runs. Ross Taylor soon joined Williamson, but he was out cheaply for 1 run. I was caught by Quinton de Kock off Chris Morris. I think Chris Morris also bowled really well during this period. I think between the 15th and 20th over, I think he was bowling really well. And Tom Latham was also out for 1 run. Again, similar dismissal, caught by Quinton de Kock of Chris Morris. Jimmy Neesham then had a sizable partnership with Kane Williamson. I think when Neesham was out, I think the score was 137 runs for the loss of 5 wickets. Neesham was again caught by Amla of Morris. I think this was a very nice slip catch. It was more of a fly slip, I would say, where Amla was standing. It was a very sharp catch. So it was good to see Amla fielding so well.
Right.
And then Colin de Grandhomme joined Kane Williamson. Kane Williamson was looking steady, but he was not his fluent best. I have to say it was more of a grinding innings by him. But Colin de Grandhomme, I think this was neck and neck. The match was neck and neck at this point. But de Grandhomme provided some fireworks. I think he provided much needed, I would say, hitting during the middle overs, which meant that he scored 60 runs of 47 deliveries, which had 5 fours and 2 sixes before he was dismissed by Ngidi, caught in the deep by Faf du Plessis at long off. By the time I think the match had become very close, I think it was one of those scores where it reminds me of the 90s where we had a similar match. I think I don't remember the exact one, but we had very similar matches in the 90s where short targets or a smaller target would always provide a lot of entertainment, and this was one of those. In the end, Kane Williamson was still there. He ensured that he took the game deep, and he ensured that New Zealand won it in the end. I think in the last over against Pakluwayo, he hit a 6, maybe of the second delivery of the last over.
Right.
And then that basically settled the score. I think New Zealand then needed just 1 run. They finished it off. So New Zealand won the match by 4 wickets in the last over. So that's the 49th over. Amongst the bowlers, Rabada picked up a wicket for 42 runs in his 10 overs. Ngidi picked up a wicket for 47 runs in his 10 overs. Morris 3 wickets for 49 in 10 overs. Pakluwayo 1 wicket for 73 was a bit expensive in his 8.3 overs. Imran Tahir, he didn't pick up a wicket, but he went for 33 runs in his 10 overs. Man of the match was obviously Kane Williamson for his 106 not out, seeing the team home safely. And South Africa are virtually out of this World Cup because of this yet another loss. So it doesn't look good for them anymore. So what do you think of the match, Ajit? Did you like it?
I mean, yes, man. It was the first true thriller of this tournament, I would say. And as most thrillers go, it was a low-scoring one. It was on a sticky sort of a pitch, as you saw that nobody was able to really score freely. Not a lot of batsmen scored at 100 strike rate or more. So Rasif Anderson did it, and then David Miller sort of almost did it. If you look at the most important innings, I think Kane Williamson, who scored 106, it was an innings of sheer genius, I would say, because he always continued to play confidently. This guy has a solid technique, we know it, but he was also a master of not expending too much energy when he goes for his strokes. But in this pitch, you kept seeing he kept getting beaten because of the balls that used to sort of stick in the pitch. So very much like what Colin de Grandhomme did. And maybe even Matt Henry to an extent, they identified the right length to bowl on that pitch and continued to exploit it, where it became very difficult for the batsman to hit. Even a clean hitter like Martin Guptill couldn't sort of, get away with scoring big big total or a very quick total, a quick number. But then what really mattered was South Africa tried their best. They were a bit unlucky, For example, I think Kane Williamson got a life when the last ball of Imran Tahir's spell was a caught behind, but nobody appealed. Well, or they appealed sort of half-heartedly, and there was no review taken up as a result. Kane Williamson got away with it. That could have been a turning point.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think, Colin de Grandhomme, when he tried to hit a couple of his shots, fell short of fielders. For example, the one near the boundary where David Miller almost tried the 1 year short mid-wicket, again, it was David Miller, right? In any case, it was very clear that this was going to be a hair's breadth away, one way or the other, whichever team won. And I think Kane Williamson was the real difference there. I mean, as well as Colin de Grandhomme and to an extent James Neesham did, supporting him. Without him, this was not going to be a victory for New Zealand. And this guy, he's actually blocked 72 dot balls.
Yeah.
In an innings of 138 in a one day, you cannot imagine somebody blocking more than half his balls, but he did. And it didn't matter in the end because when the team was under pressure, again, 14 of 12, Colin de Grandhomme getting out in that ball, and then he sort of turned the match on its head in those 2 balls or 3 balls, as you say, right? So the last ball of the 49th over, he guided to third man. He got lucky. It went for boundary. And then the second ball of the last over, when it was 7 of 5 or some such, he just hit a 6. So this guy who's been batting with restraint right through knew when to accelerate, and that was the hit that took him to 100. So you can imagine how momentous that hit was. So unfortunately, South Africa, I think, can be proud of the way they bowled and they fielded, and they were a bit unlucky. But I think the batsmen still sort of, deserve a bit of the blame. Quinton de Kock could not do much, and then Amla and Faf du Plessis, both of them were very slow. Agreed, the pitch was a bit, two bounce, and it was not easy. But Aiden Markram and Faf du Plessis, they couldn't really convert big. What happens is with these good players, if they are able to stay for more than 50, 60 balls, they usually make up the scoring rate towards the end.
Yeah.
But only, Rasif and Dusan was able to do that, and to an extent Miller, right? So as a result, that probably cost them some 20 runs in the end, and maybe could have made a difference in the final outcome. But all in all, it was a genius innings by Kane Williamson, I thought. And we have seen much higher totals, individual totals by batters this World Cup, but this was probably the best batting innings we have seen in this World Cup for me.
Yeah.
Right. So also, when you look at Colin de Grandhomme, before this match or even during the match, I think I questioned his inclusion ahead of somebody like Tim Southee. And then he replied fittingly by performance on the pitch. First of all, 10 overs for 33, 1 wicket was very parsimonious. And also, as I said, he identified the right pace and length. And most importantly, he scored 60 of 47, where he was the aggressive batsman there. In that partnership of 91, I think Kane Williamson contributed just 28 or 29. As a result, it was very obvious that it was tough for Kane Williamson, because he was intent on holding one end up, dropping anchor, so to say. You needed somebody like a Colin de Grandhomme to hit out. It would have been too tough if Colin de Grandhomme had fallen for a 30 or a 20, even a fast one, right? I think it would have been very difficult for Mitchell Santner to keep the same scoring rate up, right? So a lot of credit to Colin de Grandhomme there. All right, so as you are saying, rightly, probably Andile Pelukwayo had a bad day, and probably that cost South Africa as well, because 8.5 overs for 73 in such a low scoring encounter was very, very difficult, right? And then, as I said, it was a little bit here and there, and South Africa were on the wrong end of it. So they're nearly out of the tournament. It's just a mathematical possibility what remains for them, but even that remains to be seen, frankly, because they still have a very tough journey to a couple of tough matches still, and God knows whether they'll be able to turn it around. But I'm sure they can perform well and hold their head high when they go home, because they tried their bit. They will probably review the easy loss to India or a couple of their earlier matches, but what happened, right?
Yeah.
All right.
But further, one more highlight. One more highlight. Yeah, Hashim Amla finished or completed 8,000 runs in this match, right? So he's the second fastest to achieve this feat. Second only to, of course, King Kohli, who did it in one innings earlier.
Right.
175 innings for Kohli and 176 for Hashim Amla.
Right.
Hashim Amla may be almost at the twilight of his career. So we will have to see what he does after the World Cup. Maybe he retires from limited overs cricket.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think this unexpected dip in form probably cost him the higher, let's say the record in a less number of matches. Probably this dip in form and less runs he's been scoring cost him that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right. All right. And now, if you were to go ahead and look at the other World Cup news, we have got to know that Dhawan has been, well, he's now not going to be a part of the Indian squad for the rest of the World Cup. As a result, he has no choice but to, withdraw
Yep.
from the squad. And Pant has been approved as his replacement, Rishabh Pant.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on this, Giri?
Yeah, I think India are going to miss Shikhar Dhawan. He was a vital part of this top three. And Pant coming back in, he is for sure not going to open. So if he plays in a match, um, where will he slot in? Number 5, number 6, or even number 4? I don't know.
Right.
But however, come to think of it, India play against Afghanistan in the next match, and they're anyway going to replace Bhuvi with Mohammad Shami. So they're going to make some more changes, I think, in the squad. So it may not be a bad opportunity for them to give Pant a chance to go and express himself, so that he'd at least match fit when the time comes, when the serious when there are more serious matches, or when the when they have to play against a tougher opposition like England, for example, whom they have not played against yet. So this might be not such a bad thing for India. At the same time, I think Dhawan's presence will be missed. So we wish him all the best to for a speedy recovery, and I hope he comes back to the squad in time to make the. I think they have the next to World Cup. I think India have a Test series against West Indies, if I'm not wrong. So I hope he comes back for that in quick time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, definitely India are going to miss also his, he's the his record in the ICC tournaments, and especially in England. So this is going to be missed for sure. So let's really hope, he's able to first of all recover. And as far as India are concerned, it was still a bit surprising to see Pant getting chosen ahead of Ambati Rayudu, right? If it was going to be a middle order slot for sure. Also, let's not forget that Rayudu can open. He has some opening experience in the IPL, so that could have been a bit easier. But now it looks like Rahul is slotted into open for the rest of the tournament. He's done a good job.
Yeah, I think one left-hander for another left-hander, that could also be the logic here.
Indeed.
So India will probably want to have more left-handers. And how many left-handers do they have in the squad right now?
Well, not a lot. You're right.
Yeah. See,
right.
I think that's probably the reason why they need him.
And he can be used as a floater. He can be used at whatever batting order slot outside of top 3, I would say, right?
Yeah.
And then because he's a lefty, he brings that that left and right combination, and always also he's very competent against spinners. He's been showing that to us, so that'll be good in the upcoming matches, right?
And he manages to clear the fence even when he's out of shape.
Oh yeah.
So he has got a lot of power.
Sanjay Manjrekar, I think, was pointing out some of these things, right?
Yeah,
but
indeed,
I mean, at the end, where the ball ends up is what matters, because there is this article by, I think, Osman Samiuddin, if I'm not wrong, where he points out how Hardik Pandya has risen to the annals of being a freak, air quotes, because some of his shots don't look believable at all, because they are not in any way or form orthodox, or even they go against everything that you see in a coaching manual, but the ball is always going to the boundary, he says.
Yeah.
So this guy is playing some helicopter shots or whatnot. So that's another article I can recommend to our listeners, the article that Osman Samiuddin wrote about how Pandya is now going to be also a freak, so to say, in terms of his performances.
And I remember when there was a preview of India-Pakistan match before the toss, the players were having practice. They were practicing on the field.
Right.
Pandya was taking batting tips from, guess who?
Rahul Dravid.
No, Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they were standing next to each other, and Dhoni was actually telling him, with an imaginary bat. They were not holding a bat, but Dhoni was telling him how to follow through on a shot. I think he was fine tuning his helicopter shot skills.
Right.
Dhoni was telling him this was right. They were standing next to each other, so it was a very nice sight to behold, because Dhoni was passing on all that knowledge of power hitting to a youngster like Hardik Pandya.
Right.
So so I just remembered that because you mentioned Pandya, and how Pandya has become such a such a powerful striker. When you look at him, he doesn't have a powerful build, but I think his core strength is very good. He has a stable base, and he has a very good core strength.
Indeed. No, that's a right assessment, I would say. And also longer levers than most
Yeah,
people think, right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So if you were to go forward, there are a couple of interesting news from PCB perspective, from Pakistan Cricket Board's perspective. First of all, PCB has announced that they would do a robust review of the team support personnel after the Cricket World Cup 19 once the team is back home. It is almost, again, Pakistan also are very much on the brink as far as qualifying for the knockouts goes. So I think they are already trying to see if there needs to be a revamp in terms of who would be this coach, maybe the selection committee. Giri, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, heads will fall
Mm,
after this debacle, I think. If you look at Pakistan team right now, I think they're not such an extraordinary team. They have some talented people, I think, but they have not gelled together as a team and played well.
right,
Especially the leadership group hasn't done enough. I think if you look at the leader on the field, he doesn't exude a lot of enthusiasm. I would say he
right,
looks
right,
sedate, but maybe that's how he is. But I think it starts from there. He's a good keeper. He's a good batsman, but I don't know if he's doing well enough on the field to remain as a captain. Maybe they
right.
have to look at promoting one of the younger guys
Mm,
to the captaincy role and just
right.
let him be there for a couple of years, just so that he gets some experience and then they can build a team for the future, just
Hmm.
like what India have been doing.
Right.
And maybe they have to revamp or uh, look at the way the domestic circuit is currently being uh, organized. I think
Hmm.
Imran Khan had already proposed some changes. We talked about this in one of our earlier episodes. So maybe they have to go back to that as well. And apart from this, the selection committee, the chief selector, the whole management,
Right.
uh, especially our Inzamamul Haq.
Ah,
So I don't know if he will actually stay as a selector still. I don't know. Maybe they will have to change the coach as well, Mickey Arthur.
right.
We kind of see these things happen when there is a bad result at the end of a World Cup like this. So we can expect a few changes there, but the real changes we'll see, I think, in 3 or 4 weeks from now. But yeah, they will need to have an overhaul. Maybe
Yes.
not fully, but I think some of the senior players will have to leave, like Shoaib Malik or Mohammad Hafiz. Maybe I think he's almost 40, right? So he probably will also
Mm-hmm.
have to go as well. So we'll see. We'll keep following this and then see what comes out of it.
Well, another story that sort of links into the same thing is Mohsin Khan, who was the head of the cricket committee, as constituted by the new chairman, Ehsan Mani, has resigned from his post as the head of the committee because, well, we don't know what this really means. This could mean that he may have thrown his hat in the ring for the coach's position again, or he may have actually had some other disagreements with the management and the upper management, and he may have decided to withdraw from his post. So one way or the other, he's been let go, right? So we don't know how this is going to shape up. I'm
Hmm.
looking for some latest analysis shows in which he participated. Maybe he's given a hint. If I get to know anything, I would probably talk about it in the upcoming episodes, right?
Hmm.
Now, there were some other interesting cricket news from outside of the World Cup. So, first one is that there was a match between Netherlands and Zimbabwe yesterday in Deventer, right, where Netherlands won comfortably in a 47-over game. So, batting for Zimbabwe, it was a rain-affected game, so the match was reduced to 47 overs, and Zimbabwe made only 205 for 8 wickets in 47 overs, right? And then Netherlands comfortably chased it down in the 43rd over with just the loss of 3 wickets, right? And then there is also this news about the Mali T20 women's team, who unfortunately have not covered themselves in a lot of glory. They were all out for six against Rwanda women. So in this match, in the specific match of the Kuibuka Women's T20 tournament held in Kigali City, this is a quadrangular tournament where Mali, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania are playing each other. So Mali women seems to very much be the weakest team because they were once out for six, all out. This is comfortably the lowest score made by any team in any T20 tournament, barring some amateur leagues, I'm sure. So which Rwanda won with just 4 balls. They just took 4 balls to win this match by 10 wickets, right? This is the largest margin of victory, also the number of balls remaining and everything. And
Hmm.
then in the upcoming match, Mali were all out for 11 against Tanzania, right? And which Tanzania again won with just 4 balls bowled. And then in one of the upcoming matches, Uganda made a very small 314 for 2 in their 20 overs. and Mali were all out for 10 again. So it's been, to say the least, a very one-sided tournament, I think, as far as Mali is concerned. So they've not been really covering themselves with a lot of glory. So going on, we've come to know that Yuvraj Singh, who recently announced his retirement from all forms of cricket, is still interested in playing some T20 leagues out there, and he's asking if he can get a no objection certificate from BCCI to play in the other T20 leagues. So I think this is a good thing. He has a lot of experience to offer, and many tournaments out there could use his experience and his sort of even leadership skills if required. So we wish him all the best going forward.
Irfan Khan also has done this. Irfan Pathan, sorry.
Indeed.
Right? He had also asked for NOC. I don't know what happened to that, but
yeah,
it's a good thing.
There's some time yet. It's for I think the Canada T20 League. So there's some time yet, and he may get it, of course. And knowing that his chances are clearly not going to come again for the national team, and Yuvraj having retired, they both may be given this opportunity, right? All right. If we now go on to the trivia section, the trivia question from the previous episode was, which player holds the record for the fastest 50 for West Indies in a World Cup match, right? So surprisingly, our good friend Yogesh got the answer, but he got only one part of the answer. He has later clarified indeed that there were two people. So the answer actually is twofold. So Brian Lara, who made a 50 off just 23 balls against Canada in 2003 World Cup, and then Kieran Pollard, who made again of 23 balls against Netherlands in the 2011 World Cup, are the joint holders of this record. And Yogesh had pointed out that because Brian Lara did it first, he deserves the record. But I think both of them deserve, no matter when the record was achieved, they both deserve to hold the record jointly. And of course, we really hope Yogesh continues to answer the questions, and other listeners also take a cue from Yogesh's spirit and answer our questions and encourage us. All right. So the trivia question for this week is, who is the first New Zealand batter to be dismissed 8 wicket in a World Cup ODI match? Right? If you've been following the cricket recently very carefully, you know the answer to this question. All right. You can get in touch with us to give us the answer to this trivia question, or for any other thoughts or comments that you want to share with us on social media, for example at Armchair Cricket Pod, or through our Facebook page, right? Or you could write into us at armchair.cricket@gmail.com. You could also leave a comment in whichever podcasting app you may use, for example Podbean, Apple Podcasts, any of those, right? So do keep listening to us. We have plenty of interesting episodes coming up. We'll have some guests who will be taking part in a review of the World Cup so far with us and so on. And I do hope you all stay tuned in and keep encouraging us through your comments. Having said all that, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.